Hello, hello. Hello, welcome back to my podcast, everybody. Backseat positivity. I might take my hair down because I look like an egg. If you're new here, my name's Dawn. I am a doctor and the why do I keep saying co-host? I am the only host of this podcast. Although I do sometimes have some guests and that is a good time. Today I'm feeling prepared for what we've got in store, which I should probably tell you, otherwise you'll just click off and go nope. So today we're doing love lessons from pop culture, which is basically what can movies and TV shows teach us about romantic relationships, I guess maybe even relationships in general. Today I'm organised. I have water, I have done my nose spray which is a kind of TMI gross addition to the information that you probably didn't need. But alas, last time I felt a little bit sniffy, so I didn't think you needed to hear that again. So there it is, there's my water. All right, we've got a few sections, in fact quite a lot. What is it? We've got like 8 points. So it's time to get into it. Here's where I'd have like a podcast jingle or something, but I don't have one yet. If anybody has an idea of one, that would be amazing, because I am not a very musical person. I'm a creative person, but I don't really know how to create music. In particular, a podcast jingle. What I should have done, however, in fact, I'm also prepared with tissues, because when you put nose spray up your nose, it drips back out, okay? We're all good friends here. Also, you may have noticed, if you're regular attenders to the podcast, that I have changed the angle of the podcast. Now it feels like you're sitting at the table with me, which is very lovely. Before, you were actually up there, and then the light was a little bit blinding, but all of this is very irrelevant. But look, you can see my face, you can see my rainbow wall, you can see my plant, you can see my microphone, you can even see down to the bottom of my rib cage, and you know what's involved there. Okay, so why does it matter? Why does pop culture matter in our relationships? Look, okay, I've got a story to tell you. What's going on here? I grew up watching TV, like who didn't? But even if you didn't grow up watching TV, I don't know who you are, because I don't know if older people, like, they do listen to podcasts, but like, who are people that didn't have TVs? Like 70, 80-year-olds, 90-year-olds? I don't know how long the TV's been around. But anyway, even before we started watching TV, we can still even refer back to books, because love stories have been prevalent in our culture forever. Like, there's like 3 things you can make a story about. One is love, one is loss, and then the other is something else that I can't remember. But there's like 3 universal topics which stories are always going to revolve around and going to be universal to everybody. And it's love, loss, and the third one, which I can't remember, which I kind of wish I did remember. Wait there. 3 universal story topics. Love. I mean, this one says 5, but anyway, this one says courage, death, friendship, revenge, love. But that's not the ones that I was thinking of. But anyway, no es importante. I haven't spoken Spanish in a while. Okay, so they are ingrained in our... I feel like this intro's been really shit. I'm sorry. I'm very tired. I'm a bit distracted because I've still got to edit a video today and I'm feeling very tired and I'm like, can't be arsed, but I will do it. I'm very sorry. I'll try and be more laser focused right now. And I haven't even come up with a weird thought, which, if you don't know, if you're new to the podcast, I feel like I should just start the podcast again, but we're not going to. We're just going to roll with it. We're going to go and we're going to roll with the shitness that is me. No, don't be mean to yourself, Dawn, actually. No, we're not perfect, all right? Sometimes things don't go well. Okay. Oh, God, I'm taking so many tangents. Right. Weird thoughts, if you didn't know, is a section where I go, weird thoughts. When I'm with you, all I get is weird thoughts. I feel like by the end of, like, maybe, I don't know, a year or two, that will be good. Maybe that should be my jingle, but then it will be, like, copyrighted or something. So, even though I'm singing it and I've changed the lyrics, but whatever. So, yeah. Stories about love are very ingrained. And although we may not like to admit it, our whole lives our instinct is determined by seeking out a romantic partner, or at least some kind of relationship. That is what we drive towards just instinctively. And there are some people, I agree, I'm not talking about everybody, there are some people who don't want that, but they will generally want a human connection of some kind. And a strong majority of humans will instinctively want to have a family, because it's not because it's like that's what people do, it's because that is what we literally are born to do. So it's just an instinct that's within you. You want to have children, but there are obviously people that don't want to for various reasons, which is fine. So with those relationships, you're gonna get some kind of, when I say, you don't necessarily mean love, like you can love a friend, you can love your family, you can love a partner, like a relationship partner, romantic partner. It doesn't have to be sexual love or lust or whatever you want to call it. So that is why TV shows always have the same story, or at least a similar story. That's why rom-coms are so popular. And that is why even in a horror film, even in a film about aliens, even in space film, they literally always, like, they always have a love sideline. If not the main line, it's a sideline. Always. Like, I can't even think of a story that doesn't have some kind of loving relationship in it, whether it's romantic or friendship. Like, the first one that comes to my mind is Monsters Inc. Now, there's not necessarily, I don't think there's a romantic relationship in that. In fact, I think there is, between Mike and the person he's dating, who I can't remember. But Boo and Sully, like, they have a friendship love. And I'm trying to think of any other film. Alien versus Predator, there's a love interest in it. Literally try and find a film, and if you do, comment it down below and say, Dawn, this film doesn't have any kind of love relationship in it, whether it's romantic or friendship. And even if there's one that doesn't have, so even if, you know, almost most of them will have a romantic relationship in them. Like, even, I keep saying even if, like, even, that sentence doesn't even make sense. Most of them will have a romantic relationship in them, as well as obviously friendships, but that may be the one that is coming or going. Anyway, that is why that is the intro. A very long intro. I'm very sorry about that. Oh, Jesus, it was 10 minutes. But it's very important, you know? Romantic relationships and stories and love, they make people watch TV programs and watch films. So that's why we love watching them, because we love. Okay, so the first topic is the power of persistence. So in films, I'm trying to think of one in particular. The one that I can think of, just literally off the top of my head right now, is He's Just Not That Into You. And it's not necessarily that someone's being persistent, like she's like dating multiple people, but by the way, there may be some film or TV spoilers, but I will tell you the film or TV beforehand, but just, you know, I'm going to be talking about the plot. So He's Just Not That Into You is a very good film. It's quite old though. I think it's from the noughties, or fairly old. It's not like, you know, 1960. Some people listening would be like, that's not that old. But for TV, for me it is. I don't watch anything past 1990, maybe even noughties. That's the latest I go until the film quality gets so bad that I'm like, no, I can't. Actually, no, Harry Potter, that was, I can't remember when it came out, but I've watched that a lot of times. So, actually, wait there. Does Harry Potter have a love story? Yeah. It may be slow, and it may not, you know, it may be developing from the first book, but I'm trying to think, in the first one, there's not necessarily, like, the main characters haven't formed like romantic relationships at that point, but there's Harry and Ginny who are like, ooh, Harry. Like, that is a kind of, in some way, a romantic love, even though it's very young. Anyway, when we watch TV programs and films, there are a lot of persistent people who, in probably everyday life, you might call the police on them. They are a bit stalkery, are very persistent, and turn up at your bedroom window. Like, if somebody turned up at my bedroom window, I would be scared. I wouldn't be like, oh my god, that's so amazing. Like, maybe if they, like, you know, threw the stone at the window, that's cute. But also, I'd be scared. It's the middle of the night. I'm in bed alone. I don't want somebody turning up at my window. Thank you very much. Or, like, people showing up at work, or, like, some of them are romantic gestures if you were, like, in a long-term relationship. But for somebody who you've met, like, once or twice, it's a bit weird. So I do think it romanticizes the power of persistence, in terms of, it's like, the more persistent you are, the more likely you are to get the girl. And we move on to friend zoning a bit later, but I think I need to blow my nose. I'm very sorry. Okay, nothing came out, so that was a sad time. I feel in a very, like, docile mood today. I feel like I could go to sleep. I don't know why. I feel like I'm not on point to be interacting with a camera and a microphone, but there we go. I didn't do this yesterday, so I'm doing it today. Basically, what happened was, just a little segue into what happened over the weekend. So I've started dog sitting, and I went to somebody else's house, and I had 5 animals to look after. 2 of my own, 2 dogs, which you've seen on the YouTube stratosphere, and another dog who's like medium to big, I would say, and then 2 cats, which were very minimal work, but, you know, they required feeding and, like, loving and checking on and like brushing, and then the dogs, you know, sometimes chase them up the stairs, and that was a bit stressful. But I walked a lot, like, and I cycled there. Oh my god. Anyway, I did a lot of physical exercise, and obviously had to basically move house for the weekend, and I feel very tired. Number 2, I'd also like to apologise for regular listeners of the podcast for not publishing my podcast on the right day. I messed up again. I'm sorry. Look, I'm showing you all of my vulnerable human problems today. I thought I'd finished it. I thought I'd clicked publish. I did it on Thursday, right? And like I uploaded it and everything, and then I looked on Sunday and I hadn't like gone on my laptop, but I found the tab and I was like, oh my god, I didn't like publish it. So I did it again. What I should do is film them in advance, blah blah blah, but there we go. We all make mistakes, don't we? So just checking how long I've been going for. Let's put that up there. Right. Also, okay, if you haven't listened to my podcast where I talk about, I think it was Tinder the Ugly, but it might have been Tinder the Bad. Basically, there was a 3-part series, The Good, the Bad, the Ugly. I was one of the last 2. I can't remember, sorry. But there was a guy that turned up at my house after meeting him once at 2 a.m. or something, like crazy, some stupid time where I was like, I don't want you turning up at my house drunk, and stood there for half an hour, and I just ignored him because I was like, no, like I feel like if he knows I'm in, or if I open the door, also you're here at 2 a.m. like and drunk, I don't know if you're gonna like attack me or something. But anyway, that leads on to the power of persistence. Like, in a film, that would be extremely romantic, but for me, it was very scary. I was worried that I would, and also my housemate was worried. She was like, I thought we were going to die or get murdered or something. But in films, it's not a problem. Okay, let's move on to the second point, and that is communication, because rom-coms do get communication very right, but also very wrong and unrealistic. So, oh god, that double chin was not good. So, I think let's start with how they get it wrong, because they do get it wrong. As in, they don't get it very realistic. So basically, sometimes people will, a lot of the time, especially children on TV, right? And I'm not saying like all children are like this, but children on TV are exceptionally excellent communicators. Now, I know they have to be, but you would never see a child, or like especially a school-aged child, maybe even primary school or sometimes secondary school, be open about their emotions. Now, obviously there are people like it, but I don't, especially with each other. You know, I just had an experience of like people being a bit shit to each other and like bullying and kids being savage. So maybe it's changed, but they are overly open to the point of, and like they say things where you're like, a kid would never say that. And also sometimes a human, like, or an adult would never say that. And you're like, you know, someone you met like two dates ago, and you're like telling them your whole life story. Like, do you do that? No. Okay, one particular one that I'm talking about actually is called Sex Life. There's a second season out on Netflix now. It's basically, spoiler, it's about this woman who is in a very like happy married relationship with 2 kids, and then starts like dreaming or fantasizing about her ex-boyfriend who she had very steamy hot sex with. Now, she then writes in her journal and her husband reads it, naughty boy, but then she can't get this out of her head, and she goes and like chases him, and like, anyway, it's a big shitstorm. But it's also a very cringy thing to watch, like especially the second season. I don't know how the first season didn't make me cringe, but the second season seems particularly cringy. I'm just like, oh, like you kind of want to watch it, but you kind of don't, because it's just extremely awkward. But I feel like I didn't turn this up enough. Oh well, we'll have to roll with it now. Okay, the point that I was getting to, I've just remembered, is that she basically meets this guy for the first time and blurts out her whole messy life story to him, which he loves, but I just can't see anybody doing that. And also, he's like, oh my god, I love that you're so open. And she's like, I'm getting a divorce, my life is a mess, I'm in love with my ex-boyfriend or something, like, because I can't stop fantasizing about him or whatever. He's like, I love how open you are, like, let's keep dating. No, that wouldn't, I just can't see that happening in real life. Like, a guy would never be like, oh my god, you're married and you're going through a divorce and you've got 2 children and you may or may not still be in love with your ex-boyfriend, let's keep dating. Like, if a guy did that, I would be very concerned that he likes some kind of chase, or he likes the danger, and as soon as that danger is like gone, they're gone. Now, there are exceptions to this rule, obviously. Now, this is not a rule, but there are exceptions to this situation. Obviously, it's nice to be open, but I think him pretending that it doesn't bother him whatsoever is just a bit unrealistic. And I think being open and honest in a relationship is important. And I'm not saying like you should hide all of that stuff, but I do think it's kind of portrayed as like I just blurt out all of my issues, and this guy is like completely okay with it and actually likes the fact that she told him. I don't know. I'm not saying it wouldn't happen. I'm just saying I have not had experiences where that would be a good thing. I think we're not very open in our relationships nowadays. Like, I think especially quite immature relationships. I've definitely found that like dating people in the past has been very difficult because they don't communicate. They don't want to be open, you know, they're like hiding a lot inside. And I think whilst it is important to maybe open yourself up to that kind of vulnerability slowly, I think rom-coms often overemphasize the like how well people communicate. And is that the goal, or is it romanticized? I don't know. Should we be like that? Should we be like, oh my god, I love you, like, I do think it would, in reality, it would scare people off, rightly or wrongly, like if somebody's being open, but it often scares people off because they're not used to it. But it's weird because in TV and movies, it's very common to be open about things. Now there are obviously TV programs and movies where people aren't open and conceal things, but then it often or misinterpret or miscommunicate things, and that is the kind of plot twist in the story. But they often resolve things at the end, because most stories end happily, because otherwise you wouldn't watch them. You'd just be like, well, this is sad and depressing. Okay, I'll just reset the camera. Guys, I'm having a really hard time today, I'm not gonna lie. My like sinuses are being a real bitch. I'm feeling very tired. My mind is not flowing. You know when you're not in that mind flow. I had a weird thought. Now I can't even remember it, and I didn't write it down, so I'm just having a real shitter. Like, oh, it's not a good day. I feel like today would be like a day where I'd just lie down, maybe even have a nap. I'm feeling a nap, but I don't have time for that. Gal has to podcast, edit a video. Sorry, I'm not videoing. Oh my god, I'm being the most boring fucking person on the internet right now. Okay, come on, Dawn, you got it. Because I've got improv tonight as well, so I need to like liven myself up a bit. I feel like I just need a rest, even though I've been resting. No, actually, I only came back yesterday. Okay. Yeah, sometimes I'm just not in that mind flow state where I can just like talk and I can just go. Like right now, I could definitely just shut up. And sometimes I got it. You know, I've got that flow state, which is fairly often. And sometimes I just don't. Sometimes I'm like, oh my god, conversation is hard. It's not really a conversation if you're just talking to yourself. Is it? Oh, I don't know. Maybe it is. Okay. Love at first sight. That is an extremely common notion in the film and TV realm because everyone loves the idea of it. But is it real? I don't think so. In fact, I think very much the opposite. I think you can find somebody attractive at first sight. I think you can lust somebody at first sight. I'm sorry, this might be an unpopular opinion, but I'm going to tell you it anyway because this is the time to be telling opinions. This is on a podcast. So, I just don't believe in it. Basically, I think, like I said, I think you can find somebody attractive. I think you can lust somebody, but I think love is not something that you can just go, yeah, I love you. And I think, unfortunately, I think this is probably one of the negative sides of TV and film industry, showing us that we can get love at first sight when in reality it just doesn't work like that. And maybe you know, this industry is contributing to some of the way that people are treating people, because not just for this one, but it's like, oh, we should expect fireworks, we should expect excitement, and sex is another thing. Okay, is that on the list? No, let's talk about it now. Sex on TV shows and stuff, it's never, or rarely, there are some that I've seen that have been purposefully awkward. The In-Betweeners springs to mind there. If you haven't watched that, just go watch it. It's wild. Spoiler, the one where Will and Charlotte have sex, that is awkward. But most of the time it's like, passionate, like steamy, like rubbing bodies, like, like, you know, orgasming at like the fucking drop of a hat, like it's easy and you're compatible straight away. No, it's a fucking lie, and it annoys me because I understand it's TV, right? You want it to move, the story to move and it to be exciting and novel and fun, but it also puts expectations that your sex life should be like that, and especially for young people, seeing that, being like, oh, but they literally just like, you know, he like pulled her pants off and then went straight in, and then she was like, oh, like, no, it's not how it works. Like, sometimes maybe, but I think most of the time the first times are very awkward because you're like, like, I don't know who you are, like, you don't know who I am, we don't know what's going on, unless you're drunk, and then like, oh well, it's awkward the next day. But yeah, I think it definitely romanticizes first times, especially, and it's definitely not like that. Hear me now. Love at first sight, I know people do believe in it, but I think that butterfly feeling that you get is just like nervous excitement feeling, or sometimes sexual attraction, and can be dangerous, as in, like, I think people that you get that with make you feel insecure and make you feel it like excitement nerves, so you you get that feeling, but then they're kind of leaving you on the edge. Now, again, caveat, there are some people where you get that kind of feeling and it's great. I haven't experienced that. In fact, a lot of the relationships that have worked well have just been like a bit neutral at the start. Obviously there's the people that you're like, no thanks, no offense, but no, you're not for me. Then there's neutral people where you're like, yeah, like could work, like maybe we'll just see where things go. And then you've got the people that are like, that make you feel like, oh my god, they're the fucking best thing ever, like I can't wait to see them next. And they take up your whole mind, body and soul for the next week until they ghost you, and you're like, cool, sad, like crying, and it's a really bad time. That's my experience anyway. You can't deny the experience of that. Also, the way I've been treated by a lot of men is often, I would say, not depicted in TV shows in terms of ghosting. Like, they need to do like a realistic one, to be honest. Like, because it's not, some of the guys that I've dated don't want to commit. They ghost you, or they make you feel insecure so that they can keep you coming back or keep you like wrapped around their finger. And maybe that's just the guys that I've sought out. I understand that. Maybe it's a me thing, right? But Tom is not like that, by the way, if you're wondering. That's my current boyfriend. Yeah, that's my boyfriend. But yeah, I just think often it's not shown, that side of relationships. And I'm not just saying that men are like that. There's obviously some women who are, skirting on the lines of being like that too. But my experience is only with males, so that's all I can say about that. I've got flirting down here. Now, if you go and watch Sex Life, this new show on it's kind of new, but the second season is new on Netflix, it's like the flirting of that is so awkward, especially from some guy called Majid, and it's just like, like it's really cringy to watch, and I'm just like, but I just think I think that's all I've got to say on that one. It, again, unrealistic, and kind of, when done badly, I don't know if he did it badly or whether it's just scripted badly, but I was gonna say, okay, what's going through my mind right now is I was gonna say, flirting always goes well on TV shows and stuff, but it doesn't, because I'm thinking like there are definitely people who get let down, and that, funnily enough, moves on to our like friend zone one. Now, there are often people in TV shows and things like that kind of show people who would not ordinarily be in a relationship together, and obviously there are situations like that, but in reality, like let's say Aladdin, isn't he like he's not homeless, he's like a pickpocketer, and then he gets with Jasmine, who's a princess. Like, in reality, they wouldn't be together because their lives are just not compatible, but somehow they make it work. Now, I would be very amazed if there were lots of couples like this, where a guy that like is very poor and can't make ends meet and literally lives almost on the street. I'm not really sure. I'm talking about Aladdin because I watched it the other day, although it was the adapted version where they're actual people, not cartoons. So it's fresh in my mind. When I stayed at this house sit, they had Disney Plus, so I was watching lots of Disney. Disney completely revolves around love stories, like very much so. and also of like justice and the underdog and things like that, but often love, especially the earlier Disney. Now it's kind of moving on to like less being about like fighting for the girl, but there's always a love story in there. So yeah, often they show two very different people together, and although I don't think it's unheard of, I think it's extremely uncommon, and to kind of show that as the norm, or like show that regularly as a thing, is maybe not healthy. But would a story be interesting if it were like two like people? I think it still would. There are stories where two, you know, rich people or aristocrats or princesses and princes get together and it all works out okay, or, you know, a lot of bumps along the way, but it works out okay. So yeah, I'm just trying to think of any like in reality ones where, I mean, I guess you could say like Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, but they're still very much both from, you know, like one isn't like homeless and roaming the streets trying to find their next meal. I also think I am not sure how to get out of the friend zone. Like, my idea is that it's not necessarily possible. Sorry. But I'm sure it is. I'll try and figure it out and I'll let you know. But often TV shows depict people getting out of the friend zone by working like very hard at it with the persistence that we talked about earlier. And the person at the end realises how much they've loved their friend that's been like right next to them the whole time. How could they not have seen it before? But I have rarely seen a case of that happening. Now, there are people who are friends and who have got together, but I don't think you've been friends for like 10 years and then you get together. I mean, I'll put my hands up. It may have happened. It probably has happened. Just in my experience, I've never seen it. Forbidden love. Oh my God. This is a very common theme. Jasmine and Aladdin, Romeo and Juliet. What other ones can I think of? The Hunchback of Notre Dame. I watched that as well. With the Lady Esmeralda is her name. They get together, don't they? Shrek and Fiona. Kind of a bit forbidden. So there are lots of forbidden loves, and to be honest, I think that one is kind of still remains true to reality. People love forbidden things, but if the forbiddenness goes away after a while, does the relationship become stale? Like, do you lose that kind of excitement of the chase and not being able to do it, or does the relationship just become easier because you're like, oh, we're finally together and we've wanted to be together and now we don't have to deal with everyone's crap of making us feel bad? I don't know. Let me know about that one. I mean, that is an unconventional love story. But, okay. So what about The Undateables? Have you watched that? It's a show that I think was started in Britain, but it might be, I think it might even be in Australia now. But they basically pair people with disabilities, if I'm allowed to say that anymore, with people. Some people do have disabilities in it, but some people don't. And then they go on dates, and then they like each other, and then they carry on seeing each other. So people from different background or like different abilities can, you could deem that as an unconventional love story, but they're often not from completely different backgrounds. They're often fairly similar people. Okay. I think that is the end, guys. 40 minutes. I had a weird thought. Maybe I should just give myself a few minutes and try and think about it. I'm sorry, by the way, if you're watching on YouTube, me playing with my hair, very irritating, I understand. But I'm actually brushing it because it's really knotty. I've got look at those knots in it. So this is my opportunity to brush it. So yeah, I don't really brush my hair very often, but just give me a minute. I'm just going to think of a weird thought. I've come up with one, and it also comes from a Disney film. It's something I learned in GCSEs, and I have thought about it ever since. I learned it in GCSE chemistry, I want to say, and that is water. Water has a memory, so everything that water has been through, it remembers it, and it retains that memory, and my brain is really not in it today. It retains that memory, so if it's been weed out, it remembers that it's been weed. I don't really know how it works. I don't get it. To me, water is hydrogen 2, oxygen 1. How? Let me have a little look. What does the googly boy say about it? So still unproven. Proposed 35 years ago. Because it was in Frozen 2. So I'm not saying that's factual. That's a factual TV movie even. But I remember learning about it. I don't know if I learnt about it or whether it was just a theory that we discussed, that water had memory. I don't believe it. I can't figure out how that would work. So, okay, interestingly, it's actually not scientifically thought to be a true thing, but lots of homeopathic followers or practitioners believe that it is a real thing. So that makes more sense in my head. Is that still a weird thought? I think I'm just going to leave that as my weird thought for the day, because my brain is just nope, I'm not working. Okay, thanks so much for bearing with me through that one, guys. I'm usually a lot more into the mindset. I don't know what's going on in this. Are you okay? How are you going up there? I'm usually much more lively and flowing, but I'm feeling like a big stagnant pool of pond weed today that's ready for sleep. Okay.